Welcome to the Clean Hits Hockey Podcast. I am your host, Brad. We got Clean Hits Kenny, Clean Hits Trent, and our special guest, the one and only, the prospect Don. He is quickly becoming one of our favorite kind of prospect personalities, if you will. Look, I like that alliteration a lot, by the way.
Yeah, that's good.
In the Twitter sphere, the X sphere, whatever you want to call it. And we're going to have some fun today. What we're going to be doing is mocking. I have the top 12 in a very fancy looking spreadsheet, Google Doc sheet. We can do top 10. Maybe we can sneak in the last two picks too if we have the time. But Mr. Prospect Don, how are you doing?
I'm really good. I'm excited to be on. I love mock drafts. It's mock draft season. We got a couple of days left until the NHL draft, and then it all goes away and no one cares for about 3 years. But it's an exciting time. There's so much to talk about right now, especially for Utah too, and Utah fans at fourth pick. So, it's a good time.
Sweet.
Yeah. And Don, I was just going to ask you before we got on, but I figured I'd save it for this. As a certified draft nut, just complete sicko when it comes to following prospects my whole life. As I mentioned, I'd been watching drafts since 1996, got super into it like 20 years ago. And I consume all of the draft content on YouTube and on social media. And it just seems to me like you have popped up literally everywhere, especially for this particular draft. Like the Don is on every show that I've been watching for years and every podcast I've been listening to for years. The Don is everywhere. What led to this crazy rise to prospect stardom, Don? Where'd you come from? How'd you get here? And what's the plan for world domination?
Well, I'm not really sure what the plan is for world domination yet. It's probably after the draft. But I started posting on X like 3 days before the NHL trade deadline because I was not on like YouTube or anything like that before talking prospects or anything like that. And then I started talking to NHL draft pros, who's become one of my good friends now with the link.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, can I come onto your show and just talk your ear off on prospects? Like my friends don't want me to talk about this stuff anymore at the dinner table and stuff. I mean, like, my family was like, please just start talking online. We do not want to talk about Redeem Merca at 3 a.m. anymore. Like, we don't even know who that is. So I started posting. I started making videos and reaching out to camps to interview. Like my first interview was Porter Bartone and then Matthew Schaefer. And then I got to interview basically like 80 prospects now in this class. And I kind of was like, I was addicted to this stuff for like the last 6 years, but I just didn't know where to really start. So in June, I asked Stephen Ellis, how he got started, what I should do. And then he actually just came on my podcast yesterday or show. And, it was just really surreal meeting him at the combine and meeting all these guys that I grew up watching. And I wanted to only collab with people that I kind of like watched all the time because it was like, I mean, I have a platform now somehow. So why not just try to use it and, check off my wish list or bucket list of people I want to collab with. And people started liking my stuff. My YouTube started getting a little bigger. My X got a little bigger. And now it's just like, I got to go to the combine, which is a really cool experience. Yeah. Like I had drinks and stuff with like Chris Peters, Cam Robinson, Scott Wheeler, Corey Pronman, like Shang, and like Russ Cohen, who's been doing this for years, Michael, and there's just so many of these other guys that I've met, and it was an incredible experience. Like, I think I had a little imposter syndrome when I was sitting over at that table, but then Jackson Smith's mom came over and was like, "Are you Prospect Don?" And then called Scott Wheeler Steve Wheeler, so she knew who I was, not these other guys. And then she bought me a couple drinks, and she was like, "Here, we'll get you a round two." And then I had two, and everybody else already had paid. So basically, she bought drinks for me and somebody else, basically. So, people at the combine knew my content. I had no idea I was going in. I think I would have like realized that what was going on, but I was kind of blacking out during the combine experience and everything, the media scrums. So coming into this about like 6 months ago, starting as a contributor at Draft Pros and then working my way up here, just long hours trying to do as much as I can because I did not think this opportunity was going to come. A little of my backstory is I started in nursing and UNCW, and the building got hit by a hurricane. So I was like, maybe this is a sign to do something else. I went to Germany and studied international business and marketing, fell in love with that, and ended up going into finance. And then I started making like writing and doing videos, and then turned that into sports because I just loved sports. And then it kind of turned into this. So there was not really like a set plan. I just went with the flow, and everything kind of happened.
Well, we
All right,
know
so
that we're pretty high on your bucket list, and you've reached the pinnacle finally. So today we will.
This
we
is
will
it. I'm
talk
actually
about- yeah,
quitting after this.
I figured you would. So we'll have a celebratory drink afterwards. So we are honored to have you. The Don
thanks for not
Father is
forgetting the little
here.
people. Thanks for not forgetting the little people, Don. And
right.
I'm surprised I made the joke about world domination, and yet you're studying international business in Germany of all places. So maybe there's more to that than we really want to get into here. But what I will say is this. My main takeaway from all of that, Don, is that I feel like it's going to be Jackson Smith, number 3 to the Blackhawks. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so. If I was at the head of the table, probably. If I just had any influence in that room, just get him and then trade Connor Bedard just to try to get Jackson Smith again. Maybe redeem Merca, just load up on defense and kind of do that.
Sounds like a
awesome.
Good plan.
Well, love it.
Sounds like
what we're going
plan.
to do again is mock draft, and we're going to be picking for what we think is a good fit for the team. So this doesn't mean it's our favorite prospects. Doesn't mean that we think that person may go there from any rumors we've heard or anything like that, but more of if we were that GM for that team, who would we select? So going to be kind of unique in that way of trying to pick the best player for each different franchise that we'll be going over. Before we get started, though, Prospect Don, where can everybody find you on all your socials?
Yeah, I'm on X and YouTube and TikTok, all at the Prospect Don. I just started on TikTok, but it's absolutely killing it with the combine clips. I have no idea how that platform works, but it's crazy. YouTube is awesome. I'm dropping a lot of videos. Like I said, Stephen Ellis, I'm going to drop tomorrow. I have mock drafts. So just, everything you would want is on those 3 platforms.
Nice.
Very cool. So be sure to give him a follow. Be sure to check out all of his content because it is awesome stuff. All right, you boys ready?
Yes.
I'm
ready.
ready.
All right.
Build a team here.
Ooh, look at that.
Yeah. You could tell that Brad went to college.
I froze the top row so we can see everybody's name as we scroll down. I'm a
awesome,
pro.
man. That's
I am a pro.
Oh, yeah, that's crazy.
All right. I think this one's going to be pretty easy. Can I just put Schaefer in across the board, or does anybody have a different opinion here?
I'm going to say Schaefer.
Yeah, Schaefer for sure. Unless they trade the pick to the Blackhawks for a 7th rounder, which is what I would do if I was their GM.
And I mean, I think when you have Dutch found gold, and we'll talk about Utah in a second as well, but as the Islanders found here with winning the top spot of the lotto, I think you just got to go with BPA here. I mean, I think there could be some arguments about Misa as well, just because they're in that spot of needing everything. But I do think having potentially, I guess we'll have to see what happens, but Noah Dobson and Schaefer locked up as your 2 top defensemen, it starts to allow you to kind of build around that, especially having a new GM in the building. It gives the prospect pool and the team itself a little bit of an identity. You're going to have 2 franchise level defensemen right off the bat as you build the rest of the roster. So again, they kind of need a little bit of everything. Horvat there definitely helps the center position. You still have Barzal. Who knows what happens to any of their players really as we move forward here, but Dobson being kind of the youngest stud and their roster, it seems like just add to it, right?
Yeah, and I see a lot of Islanders fans split online. Like, we need Misa, we need Misa. The team's been so boring for so long. Schaefer he's a dominant player on the back end. So he's gonna be an exciting player. He's gonna carry the load for you guys. Don't make a silly mistake. Don't look like a gift horse in the mouth, and take Schaefer.
Yeah, I agree. And Schaefer did only play 17 games in the OHL this year. He was able to play at the World Juniors a little bit for a couple of games. He played at the Hlinka. He really showed his stuff in a small sample size. And I wouldn't really be too worried about the lost development year because he doesn't turn 18 until September 5th. So he's one of the youngest players in the draft, if not the youngest player in the draft. So a little bit of time for him to come back from injuries that aren't terribly scary from a long-term perspective, broken collarbone, I think mononucleosis or something like this, stuff that guys tend to bounce back from.
Yep.
Yeah, Matthew Schaefer is going to be able to plug into your lineup, play 25 minutes a night, especially in the playoffs. Really good offensively, but he was great defensively the year before. A lot of scouts were kind of knocking him or critics about his offensive game, and he showed so much prowess. You saw in that one game in 4 minutes in Hockey Canada, where he was obviously the breakout passes were so much better for Canada as soon as they lost him. Sam Dickinson was elevated to the number one defenseman on that team, and it just was not the same. I think Schaefer is 2 years younger than those guys as well, and he's just like you said, a lot younger than the entire competition for this. Schaefer is just one of those guys that is a player. His player comps and his Erie Otters assistant coach was Cale Makar as well as Miro Hiskinen. So I like a lot of those. Drew Doughty is also one of those too. Yeah. So Schaefer's going to give you that elite top pair defenseman type of build if you take him for the Islanders, and you lucked out getting this pick, 1.8% odds. So you take the best player.
Yep.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah. Hard to disagree with that. I don't think they would potentially go Hagens here, even though there's the whole connections to being a Long Island boy and everything, but does sound like they're trying to make some work to potentially get back into that top 5, top 6 range and maybe try to grab them later. But well, moving right along, San Jose Sharks, again, the rebuild's been going a lot better than I think a lot could have ever predicted. I mean, I thought they were going to be stuck with Burns, Carlson contracts, gosh, maybe even Hurdle. And I thought it was going to be weighing them down and make it harder to really make it harder to really tank to the bottom and get maybe extra assets like you need to just kind of mass gather when you begin a rebuild. But lo and behold, they've been able to do that. And I mean, winning the lotto last year and grabbing Celebrini, getting Dickinson is off to a hell of a start already. And now you're sitting here at number 2. Who would you go with prospect on?
It's going to be Michael Misa. Misa obviously played with another Sharks prospect, Igor Chernyshov, in Saginaw, and they played incredibly well together. Obviously, there's talk that they could go in a different direction here, but I think it would be an absolute mistake. Michael Misa skates like the wind. He puts up incredible point totals this year in the OHL when he was the best player 4, 3, and 2 years out of the draft in this class. I think that his last year in the OHL before this one, I think it was a little overblown, and then he just beat out so many OHL historic records. I mean, he was putting up numbers like John Tavares and Patrick Kane, and I believe they had really good careers. I'm not really sure on both of them, but yeah, this is the kind of guy you want. Versatile in the top 6 for the Sharks. They have so many great players. I mean, Quentin Musty might not even be in their top 6 just because of how much depth that they have. They have William Eklund as well, Will Smith, who they lucked out on because he hit. And I just feel like you want him as your center to center a line with Igor Chernyshov on that one side, bring up Will Smith to play with Macklin Celebrini. It would just be bing, boom, and a bomb. And it's great to just put this guy in your top 6 and let him cook.
Yeah. Love it.
I think it's, go ahead, Trent.
Well, you're going to get to make a pick, Kenny.
Oh, I didn't see that we're going in an order.
Yeah.
My bad. All right, my bad. Go ahead.
All good. So I think I'm gonna trade. I'm going to trade it for Noah Dobson and Cole Iserman. No, I'm just kidding. We're not doing
wow.
trades here. Yeah, I think I'm going to be boring and take Misa. But my thought here is, you know, I don't know how much of a slam dunk it necessarily is for San Jose just because of the makeup of their core there. Eklund's not the biggest guy in the world. Celebrini's not the biggest guy in the world. Neither is Will Smith, right? Will Smith is playing on the wing. Is he a wing? Is he a center? Not totally sure. Misa has some questions about center or wing.
Mhm.
I see him as a center. He's not the most physical guy in the world, but he does have a good frame to him. He has strong details to his game. I do think that Michael Misa makes a lot of sense here. There has been some chatter lately that maybe they're looking for more of a prototypical 2C, somebody like Caleb Desnoyers or Anton Frundell, who might be a better fit as a sure shot center right down the middle. I think that Macklin Celebrini being a really good two-way guy allows them to kind of take the best player available here and see what happens. I think that, Igor Chernyshov is going to need a guy who knows a little bit more about SPF 90 and how sunblock works here in North America, because he took a draft day tumble for the strangest reason I can ever recall, skipping the combine because of a sunburn. But anyway, Michael Misa, I think, even though he's playing in Saginaw, which is a bit of shinny hockey, everybody gets their cookies in Saginaw, which I can see as a little bit of a criticism when you think, what would James Higgins have done there for the Spirit versus Michael Misa? Would he be the one putting up historic numbers? Perhaps it's a little bit tougher at BC than it is in Saginaw. But I think ultimately at the end of the day, you can't overthink it if you're Mike Greer, and you got to walk up and pick Michael Misa, who to me makes up the first tier of the draft with Matthew Schaefer. And then there's a tier after that with other players that you need to consider. And my thought is, if they're really, really considering Caleb Desnoyers or Anton Frundell here, they need to trade with Utah.
I would not hate that.
All right, Kenny, who are you picking?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. My bad. I rushed up to the stage before. It's going to be boring, guys, but it's Misa all day. I think Greer has done a phenomenal job. In the beginning, I was so skeptical of what he was doing. I had no idea. And just to add, one of my favorite goalie prospects in all time, Askarov, and then just stacking good piece on top of good piece on top of good piece. Have we heard that before? That's Bill Armstrong's favorite quote, right? I definitely understand the need for, like, okay, we got our top end guys. We could use a John Tavares, or I'm sorry, not a John Tavares, a Jonathan Taves type and Desnoyers, or something down the line where it's a responsible two-way center. In this instance, just take the best player available. With San Jose Sharks, like you've got such a great prospect pool. I guess not even prospect. Half of the guys are playing on their roster. Make that a problem later on, right? If you have too many guys that can't fit into the lineup, that just means that you have a valuable trade asset down the road to fill up a need elsewhere. So, Michael Misa all day. I agree. 134 points in 65 games. That's incredible. I think I was still picking my nose at 17. So just that not much has changed, but Michael Misa all day.
Yeah, I don't have much to add here. I just think with taking the ability to trade out of our mock here, I think that Misa would be the best fit and best player for the Sharks here. Right. Maybe at draft day, they do try to move down a little bit and get maybe more of a two-way player, but I think it's going to be very, very hard for them to say no. We are going to snake this, and now that we're at the Blackhawks, who is Don's team here, I'm actually going to kick this one off. Mm-hmm. And this one's tricky because I mean, the Blackhawks have had a slew of picks. Seems like a lot of their forwards are kind of in that more speedy skill-y area, especially their top prospects in that pool. And obviously, I think they want to ensure that they have center depth here. And I think as a fit and where they are drafting this year, instead of going for maybe the best upside here, I'm going to put them with Desnoyers, because I think as far as ensuring you have a 2C or ensuring maybe you have a very good, strong two-way guy to play with Bedard, he has that flexibility to potentially do either or if some of their other prospects like Nazar kind of work out to be a good fit for Bedard, or let's say Bedard does end up really solidifying himself at center. Now you have kind of that perfect 2C to be able to roll out two different lines that have very different skill sets. And I think that's going to be really important for the Blackhawks with what they've built so far at forward. So I am going to go Desnoyers here. And I think there are plenty of our Clean Hits fans who are just losing their minds in the Discord right now. If once they get to see this, I think there will be a lot of heartbroken Mammoth fans if this is the case. But that's my pick for the Blackhawks. Kenny, you're up.
Yep. Not to piggyback off you, but Desnoyers for the Blackhawks is for me too. I think that they need a sound, smart player. My biggest concern, and it's not a huge concern with Desnoyers, is there were some shifts that I would watch where he would have a lapse in defensive coverage and the other team's flying down the other way. That can be coached, especially with a good coach, right? Hockey IQ is not something that you can really coach, right? These guys, he's just a smart, cerebral player. He reminds me a lot of Taves. And I think that the Blackhawks would be thrilled to have someone as sound and with his upside, like you said, Brad, he could do it all. He could be an insane offensive output player, and then also be able to be defensively responsible like an Anze Kopitar. So I think if I were the GM of the Blackhawks, I'm not overthinking this one. I'm going with the safe bet in Desnoyers.
Would be something to kind of have Kane and Taves 2.0s.
Right.
At the start of a new rebuild.
Yep. Agreed.
All right, Trent.
Yeah, I think those are all really good, valid points. If I were picking off of my own personal list, I'd go Desnoyers here. But I think that the Blackhawks believe in Nazar and they believe in Bedard and they believe in them as centers. And I think that they can afford to go winger here if they want, with somebody like Porter Martone, who's a good foil for them, a nice sizable winger. I do worry a little bit about pace of play with him and how the Blackhawks are building such a speedy team. So I think from a fit perspective, putting him in the mix might make some of his weaknesses a bit more glaring. They do, however, have a lot of players who like to transport the puck. They have a lot of good playmaking there. I think that Anton Frondel is a player who is much closer to NHL ready. A lot of these prospects are knocking on the door, are already on the NHL roster. I think the Blackhawks need to take a step forward sooner than later. I wouldn't want to wait on a beanpole like Jake O'Brien to be ready, even if I think he'd be a phenomenal fit here. So I'm going to go with Anton Frondel with the idea that he can step in sooner than later. And he can play a variety of roles too. Center, winger. He's got the big one-timer for the power play. They have a few really high-end finishers in Chicago and coming up. One of which Jake O'Brien really liked to tee up, and maybe Anton Frondel can be part of that equation of goal scorers in Chicago. So I'm gonna go with Frondel here.
Yeah, Anton Frondel seems to be the pick here. It wouldn't necessarily be my pick, but just to talk about Anton Frondel and Caleb Desnoyers a little bit just beforehand. Anton Frondel is one of those players that actually plays more of a power forward game than a Porter Martone, even though the size might not be there. If he's not getting the puck, if it's not going well for him with his incredible shot, which is probably second best in the entire draft with his heavy shot, his slap shot is incredible if you've ever seen it. But Victor Eklund was driving a lot of the play. But if he's not offensively getting going, he's going to just try to lay you out and hit anybody on the ice, which is incredible for somebody that could play next to Connor Bedard or center a line with Frank Nazar if the Blackhawks don't want two centers that are under 6 feet to be their top 2. I think that the Blackhawks have a lot of options here, like a Porter Martone and James Haggins, which is kind of very similar to both Connor Bedard and as well as Frank Nazar. Desnoyers had 2 bum wrists since November, and he actually played wing majority of the year, even though a lot of people don't talk about this. He had the highest faceoff percentage out of anybody in this entire draft at over 60%, but he had to actually go move over to wing because of how bad that wrist injury, both of the wrist injuries was. I'm hearing that he actually might need surgery on one of those, but that's not confirmed. That was just what somebody said yesterday when we were doing a mock draft with 2 people that are linked up, so they would know. But the thing is, like, I think that the Blackhawks probably do take Frondell, but I would want Porter Martone. I talked to Chris Peters at the Combine, and he said that Porter Martone 4 years ago, actually his skating has only gotten so much better. Like, he barely could skate, and now he can. It's not that he's a slow skater. It's his first 3 strides, which I continue to talk about. It's kind of like a lawnmower or an old-timey car. Once it gets going off the line, it could get you to point A to point B pretty well. He's not a slow skater, but the thing is, it's just that if you're in transition, if somebody beats you, I mean, the other guy's going the other way. If it's Colin Potter against Martone for a puck, Colin Potter's going to beat him in 2 strides. This guy just needs to work on a little bit, but his vision, his playmaking, his shot is also incredible. I think it's very underrated. And I think Porter Martone, if he goes to the NCAA level, which he could with Penn State, which is kind of rumored, but I think he might go back to Brantford. He's going to be able to skate 4 times a day plus, and he's not going to be able to burn all of those calories when you play those games. So it's going to be more on ice training. I think when you get him to an NHL facility, the coaches are just going to be able to help him skate. I mean, if there's one thing you can work on by skating all the time when these kids are 17, 18 years old and you're skating every single day for 20 years, I think it's skating. Hockey IQ is one of the hardest things to develop at a fast pace because it's always split second, and he has that. And he's also not bad defensively. I think that's a part of his game where it kind of goes overblown a little bit. But again, he's not going to, if somebody has a step on him, he's not going to be able to get back to that player. And he also has a good hands. He has great hands, and his edge work is phenomenal. So if he needs to, go between the legs and try to do a highlight reel goal, he can do that. He has that in his arsenal. But I think that any one of these players could be the fit, but I think it's going to be Frondell. But who I would pick is put Martone on the right wing of Connor Bedard for the next 15 years.
Wow.
Yeah, that would be something else. He was close to being my pick here, but that idea of the second coming of Taze was too tempting for me.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Mammoth fans, here we are. Utah Mammoth and Prospect Don gets to start us off.
Well, what I'm hearing is not what I want to happen because it just makes me confused. And it's the Brady Martin thing. He's now the betting odds favorite. If you go to FanDuel in Chicago, I'm not sure if you guys have looked at those odds, but it's now, I think, plus 160 or somewhere around that range. And obviously it's not minus, but when you're looking at Brady Martin, this guy is 170 pounds. He's an absolute bulldog on the ice. He can hit you. His player comparison at the Combine was probably the greatest comparison ever at this point, which was Sam Bennett, who just won Conn Smythe, was Tom Wilson. So this guy is awesome. Farm boy, farm tough. He can hit you, even though, like I said, he's 170 pounds, but he hits like he's 200 or 400 and needs to go on Biggest Loser and Ozempic because this guy is just enormous, but he's so tiny. It's like, I've never seen anything like it. I wanted to get a hit specialist on just to talk about that. I think you guys should if you draft him. Just like, what does he do that makes these players all get have 5 minutes on the bench in pain? Because he really does do that. He has a Sioux connection, so I could totally see Pittsburgh try to trade up those 2 first-round picks if the Rangers give him that from 11 to 12 to try to take him. But I think Brady Martin might be the pick here. I would pick Caleb Desnoyers. I really like that fit here. You guys have so many great players up front. Daniil Booth is one of my favorite prospects. He's obviously enormous. He has a ton of skill. I think you need a 2C. I just love your entire roster. Logan Cooley, Dylan Gunther, Shimashev. You guys don't have a lot of fills to holes to plug, but but a 2C is never a bad option, and especially when you have that versatility with him being on the wing for most of the year. He played phenomenal. So Desnoyers is also one of the best defensive prospects or best defensive forwards in this entire class, but he does have defensive lapses. And I think it's because in the queue, he kind of gets bored out there a little bit. The engagement level just might not be there.
Yeah.
You put him in a different league. Hopefully he can show that in the NCAA if he goes there. I don't actually know if he will, but I hope he does, or somewhere else. But I really hope that the Utah Mammoths, which I thought it was going to be the Yetis. I really wanted a Yetis jersey. Should just take Desnoyers and not even think about it. Do not take Martin, in my opinion. But if you do, I understand why.
So you're going Desnoyers here?
Yes, Desnoyers.
Perfect.
And I'm going to have to do the same. He's number 3 on my list, my personal list. I think he's the perfect fit. He's exactly what we need. I think that I love the details in his game. I love that he's such a smart player. I can understand the allure of Brady Martin, who I've moved into my top 5. He's definitely a player that I think has a lot of upside. You know, we had Jerome Berube from hockeyprospect.com on our podcast earlier this week. He put out a great stat showing the highest delta or most improvement from first half to second half scoring. Brady Martin was right at the top of the list. Desnoyers, oddly enough, was towards the bottom of that list, where he had some regression in his second half, I think on account of the wrist, on account of moving to wing. But by the time the playoffs rolled around, he was an absolute monster until he finally, I think, again, the injuries just kind of got to a point where he couldn't perform at that level by the time he got to the Memorial Cup. But his playoff scoring was insane. So I do wonder just how much Desnoyers would have been able to accomplish had he been healthy all season. And that's something I'd love to see. But I don't want to discredit the Martin hype train too much. I do get it. I know a lot of people are confused by it. I think he's got underrated playmaking ability. I think the shot is an absolute weapon. I think his B game is sublime. But when it comes to Desnoyers, I think the IQ is too high. I think the craftiness is too high. He's out there playing chess when everybody else is playing checkers. He strings together little brilliant play after little brilliant play after little brilliant play all over the ice. He's an absolute tactician. And these are things that I think are highly, highly translatable. I think he's got a really good frame. We had, who was it, Sam Cosentino on the show recently. He was talking about how impressed he was with Desnoyers' physical growth potential, you know, talking about him like he's a golden retriever puppy with the big paws, right? That he thinks he's got even more growth to him and filling out. And I just wonder, when this kid is not skinny anymore, when this kid is not injured anymore, when this kid has reached his full NHL physical prowess, what kind of a weapon are you going to have on your hands with Desnoyers? And that's just too hard for me to turn down. So I'm going Desnoyers as well.
Well, now I'm really wishing I didn't just gift the Blackhawks Desnoyers, but yeah, here we are.
I know. We just keep feeding the Blackhawks.
Keep doing it.
Yeah, right. This might be a little bit of a surprise. I don't think it's too much of a surprise based off the caliber of player. My heart is telling me it's going to be Brady Martin. My heart's telling me that. I'm actually not upset with that at all. I think I texted the group chat the other day. I'm like, I'm almost to the point where I'd be a little disappointed if we don't pick him. But and that was a change in tide. That was the first time Trent and I talked about it. I'm like, dude, what are we doing? Like, why do we keep going, like falling in love with certain players and then kind of making the surprise pick like we did with Boot and Simashev? But that seems to be turning out pretty well. If I'm Bill Armstrong, I'm going up there and I'm selecting James Higgins.
Love it. I love it.
Yep. I think you similar to the issue, or not the issue, but the situation at hand with San Jose. Stack good player on top of good player on top of good player. Bet on the talent that you have in Higgins. Don't look at this year as like, oh, this is super disappointing. It's a stacked roster. There's a lot of goals to be scored, and Perreault and Leonard did have the lion's share of them. But you can see the talent; it oozes out of this player. And you draft him. You throw him in the lineup. You see how everybody meshes. I don't care if he's Logan Cooley 2.0. That's not a bad thing, in my opinion.
Yep.
And if you have to fill a hole later, then we've got a ton of prospects and picks that we can ship out and get that Sam Bennett style player. I'm not saying Sam Bennett grows on trees, but we can grab some grime and grit on the wing. And you pick Higgins.
We may already have that with Tej and Boot there anyways. So.
Yeah. So that's Higgins. The Higgins it is. That's my guy on draft day.
Man, I'm really torn here now because I think the Desnoyers fit is what makes the most sense to me. I think Higgins, if I am the GM, it's just a little too much of a similar skill set to Cooley and Keller, who we already have on that lineup. Then I understand the desire of wanting to go Martin here. And if McQueen wasn't with his questionable medical history right now, that would absolutely be my pick. But instead, I am going to go for a different tall, big playmaking center and go Jake O'Brien here.
Wow.
Love it.
Wow. Yep. I
love that pick.
It's a prospect that was a little bit off my radar most of the season just because I knew we were not going to be selecting in that range. But then after the lotto win, I had to start doing my homework again. And I initially found love with Frundell. But me and Trent have talked about it quite a bit, where we have a lot of shoot first players with Dylan Guenther, Ginla in the mix. There's only going to be so much room on the power play. I mean, even Keller has a phenomenal shot and has put up 30 plus goals. I think what we could use is a little bit more of that pure playmaker who is also big enough to complement wingers like Tej, who may be more of a puck hound, or complement a guy like Keller. Maybe it's one of those things where O'Brien works his way and becomes Keller's center, and Cooley sticks with Dylan Guenther, or even to set up Dylan Guenther. I just think that skill set works so well with what we are building at wing that it would be too tempting for me to pass on him here, especially because he truly has top center upside. Maybe he never reaches it, but I just think the wingers that are potentially going to be around him would be enough to elevate him if he doesn't reach that. I like that he is a younger birthday, younger in the draft class with a June birthday. Or wait, do I have that backwards where he's about to go?
No, he's I believe he's young for the class, if I recall correctly. He's a June birthday. Yeah.
And
he just a few days ago he turned 18. So happy birthday to Jake O'Brien. Yeah.
There you go. And I just think that we haven't seen the best of him yet, too. I think being a little bit younger, he's going to be able to fill out, and I think he could be just a perfect fit for this team. So going a little off the board there, and O'Brien would be my pick there with just the way how this all played out.
So you know what I learned in this exercise is it's going to be really hard to disappoint me on draft day, because I would love it if we picked Desnoyers. I would love it if we picked James Higgins. I'd love it if we picked Jake O'Brien, and I'd love it if we picked Brady Martin. So I'm going to be a hard guy to disappoint when pick 4 is on the board.
Yep. I mean, now you don't
turn back around, and I get to double down with the Preds. Yeah. And if this is a team that is getting that rebuild going, getting the lawnmower going, if you will, Prospect Don, I think at this point you have to just be running up and grabbing Higgins for the pure upside and being potentially your franchise player, potentially your franchise center, maybe your top wing playmaker. You got to be frothing at the mouth here if Higgins drops to you at pick 5. So
I'm going to just say
sure there'll be more people who can talk about Higgins better than I can, but as far as that first definitive pick for a potential rebuild, who knows what they're actually going to do. I just think you can't pass right there.
Yeah. What were you saying, Trent?
I got my order reversed. You're up, Kenny. Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, it's okay, dude. I did it to you, so we're even now.
Even.
This one's a tricky one for me, guys. I'm trying to think of the best fit here, but there's a player on my board that I can't believe he's still available right now, and I think that Nashville just has to run up and grab Martone. I think Martone is just overall, he's just going to be a really, really exciting player to watch. There is some consistency issues there. But again, I think a lot of it can be coached out of you. And if you have good coaching and they just tell you, hey, stick with what you know, just go out there and be a player that everybody knows you to be, Nashville is going to jettison themselves on the path to a significant rebuild by taking Martone.
He would also potentially unlock that ability to move Forsberg, I think, if you make that statement of getting that big winger who can do a little bit of it all. Maybe you feel a little bit more comfortable moving Forsberg to continue that rebuild.
Right.
All right, Trent, you're up.
Higgins for me. He's in my second tier with Caleb Desnoyers. So I have Schaefer and Misa in one tier, and then for me, Desnoyers and Higgins is in my second tier. So I'm going to go PPA here on my list and pick Higgins.
All right.
Smart move.
Done.
Yeah, I think it's going to be Haggins here. The reason that I wouldn't be Martone, and I think he could fall in this class, is because of all the centers that teams need here. I think Flyers go for center. I think that Bruins go for a big center. So I think that it's going to be James Haggins because of his vision, his playmaking. 37 points in 37 games against 22 to 25-year-old men in the NCAA. I don't think that a lot of people can kind of give him the credit that he deserves. Like, he was playing the Will Smith role and he was very young. Ryan Leonard and Perot obviously were the top prospects in both of their systems, respectfully, for the Capitals and the Rangers. And I mean, they kind of, it's basically like, respect your elders. He's not going to be playing the role that he wants to play. He wants to be more of a I guess Chris Paul type of player in that role, but he didn't really have the puck a lot. He had a little trouble with getting into the center of the ice, but I mean, it's because he was playing a level up, way up from the USNTDP team. When he was playing international, you saw a different type of player too, even with when Teddy Stiga obviously won gold. If you rewind 5 minutes, James Haggins had an opportunity to bury the puck and win gold for the U.S., and he actually did not lift the puck. If he lifted it 2 more inches, then they would have won. They would have won gold, and he would have had his signature moment. He's a very clutch player. Just imagine a world where James Haggins wins gold for Team USA, and then you have that to solidify yourself for your draft year. We would be completely looking at this differently. So 2 inches really hurt him. And even with his height, he's 5'11". If this guy was 6'1", we would be talking about him as the number 1 pick. It's so weird how we talk about some of these prospects, because James Haggins might fall in this class. That's why the Islanders try to trade up to 7. He shouldn't even be in the conversation at 7. Martone shouldn't even be at the conversation of 8. But that's kind of the reality we're living in right now. This is a deep class. We're going to see a lot of things happen that people are going to be shocked at, like Beckett Seneca. And one of those is Haggins falling to even 5. He's not a top 5 player. He's a top 3 player. And in my opinion, like, best skater and vision combo you have in the entire class. He's not the best skater in the class. I think that's Colin Potter, but James Haggins has all of that because of how fast his mind can work out too. Like, very high hockey IQ along with that skating. So Predators are lucking out a lot, and I have no idea what the Predators are doing. But maybe they get back on track with this.
That's why Haggins is going to be a phenomenal mammoth.
Before we jump over to this Philadelphia Flyers selection, I do want to just pat myself on the back with all my team colors. with what I was stuck with Excel. I did not go find the actual color codes for all
It
the
looked
teams.
really
So
good.
this Predators Philadelphia Boston mix was tough, but I think I really knocked it out of the park there.
Yeah, I did.
I mean, this is just phenomenal work.
Yeah.
There's going to be an NHL team that comes calling after they see this.
Yeah, we need
love
that
it.
analytic guy from Clean Hits. Damn it!
Yeah, I just
Look how
I
good
just
he is
love
with Excel.
I love the all caps mock draft title of the.
I'm an all
Amazing.
caps man.
Yeah,
period.
me too.
All right, the Flyers are up, and
Yes.
that means you are as well, Don. So kick us off.
You know, I've heard from multiple sources, and it surprises me a ton, like the Brady Martin to Utah. Even though I love Brady Martin, I don't want Utah fans to hate me. Like, it's just based on the rankings. Jake O'Brien to the Flyers. They really like Jake O'Brien's game. It seems to be a lock. They've seen him multiple times this season. They've had serious interest in this guy. He was obviously the best player in Brantford this year. I mean, with the Bulldogs this year, and Nick Larda scored 71 goals. So how good do you have to be? And they weren't even playing on the same line. But him on the power play with Michkov is absolutely going to scare teams. This guy is one of the best playmakers. His incredible vision. Every puck, I always say this, but every puck that he passes to his teammate is in the right. It's like a chest pass in basketball, but it's always flat. I have no idea how it happens. I even asked him about it. He said, "You're just born with it." I love that confidence. This guy grew up a Pittsburgh Penguins fan, so maybe the Pittsburgh Penguins try to trade up too. But I feel like this is a phenomenal fit. This guy's 6'2", right-handed center. There's a ton of right-handed players in this class. If we're talking about big defensemen and also right-handed centers, it doesn't really happen like that often, especially with this high quality of player. But he has a ton of upside, and also he put up a ton of production, even though he is more raw than an average player. So I think that this guy is just going to be the Flyers pick.
I like it. I absolutely agree with a lot of that, and O'Brien Michkov line would be something else. Unfortunately, I will not let that happen in my alternate reality. Trent, you're up.
Yeah, I think I'm tempted to go O'Brien here too. I think that Brady Martin was kind of made in a lab to be a Flyer. I think he's got the Broad Street bully mentality here. But they did just take Jet Luchenko with an early pick last draft. And I don't look at Brady Martin and Jet Luchenko as like your 1 and 2 centers of the future, right? So I might want to lean toward a little bit more upside with Jake O'Brien here. However, I think Michkov really likes to possess the puck. I think Jake O'Brien really likes to possess the puck. I think that Brady Martin has got underrated playmaking ability and underrated shot. He shot way up in terms of production over the second half. And I think that they will bank on him being the player type that they want, that he'll be the culture changer they want to bring with Jet Luchenko and build an identity of a hardworking lunch pail player. And they're going to hope and pray that his offense takes another step. So I'll go ahead and put Brady Martin here at number 7.
I could see him being a Flyer for sure. You're absolutely right. I also have another Faller on my list, and I don't know if it's the best fit, but I would assume that if he's there, that the Flyers don't look away from it. I mean, he's got top line center potential, and that's Frondell. I think having Frondell on the Flyers to play alongside Michkov would be a sight to see. I mean, they both have incredible shots. Now you're right there, Trent, with that. Michkov is kind of like a puck hog, but Frondell's also got a little bit of a power forward aspect to his game, and I think that Michkov is while he can show signs of aggression, I think it would actually benefit and complement him to have a player like him to play alongside with. So I think it kind of eases the load on Michkov a little bit, and Frondell next to him would be a sight to see. So Frondell for me for the Flyers. Talk about alliteration. Think about it. That was awesome.
Oy, this is tough. I love the idea of Martin here. I think the Flyers absolutely need to get a center here, and luckily there are good options within this draft. I think Martone at this point may be best player available as far as pure upside, but again, you have Mishkov, and I think you have to address center at some point here. And as much as I think Martin fits the Broad Street Bullies, this is Danny Briere's Flyers, and because of that, I am going Frondell as well. I think that shot would be too tempting, along with Mishkov's playmaking. I think you set yourself up for success and pray he stays at center. So Frondell will be my pick. Now, Bruins are such an interesting piece here at pick 7. I don't think anyone was going to predict them to have the absolute collapse that they did. Watching Brad Marchand win the cup with a different team is very strange, but man, what a fit there.
Future mammoth.
I am going to go with what would be such a perfect fit for this team and do Brady Martin. For all the same reasons we have been talking about before. Imagine kind of kicking off that retool of your prospect pool with a guy who is fairly ready and may be able to actually play with someone like Pasternak in the near future here. My other option is going for the full-on Grand Slam and going with Roger McQueen here. There's part of me that would say that is absolutely what they should do, that disaster of a season is in a little bit like a lotto win where maybe they still have enough pieces where they don't need to go full rebuild and they can take the chance of potentially getting a top 3 player in this draft all the way at pick 7. But I think ultimately they may not be ready to absolutely commit to a full teardown, and Martin at that point is a very safe selection for them that fills an absolute need down the middle for them. And again, I mean, he feels like he was born to be a Bruins in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
All right, Kenny.
This was kind of an easy one for me. Boston needs a center, and they need center depth in the future. So Jake O'Brien fills the need here for me. I think he's an outstanding center to build around. Boston has kind of found themselves in a weird situation where they're finally starting to rebuild, and if you're picking in the top 10 and you have the opportunity to get one of the top 3 centers, arguably one of the top 3 centers in the draft at 7, then O'Brien all day.
All right.
Yeah, I think O'Brien is probably the guy they should pick. Either that or Martone here as the 2 guys who are available, but I'm not going to go with O'Brien. They picked Dean Letourneau last year. That's not looking so hot, but they wanted to swing on that giant upside. Maybe Dean Letourneau turns it around. He probably should have went to the USHL for a year, and he didn't. Whoops. So I think they're going to call a mulligan here and pick Roger McQueen.
Wow. Yeah. I also would like to comment on the O'Brien last name being a very Boston Bruins last name or Boston
That's
last
true,
name.
yeah.
That's fair.
That is really true. To talk about McQueen for a little bit, because it's either between McQueen and Martin, and usually I always selected McQueen here because of the Dean Pot. Obviously he is looking like he might not be the NHL player that they drafted him to be, even though he was a late first rounder. I think they still had high hopes. His stats just were not there, but Roger McQueen is a 6'5" right-handed center, and he's a lot of soft skill, but he has some of the best hands in the entire class. I think the Boston Bruins might want Roger McQueen. Don Sweeney saw him 3 times live, and he only played 17 games, scored 20 points. So 3 divided by 17 is pretty high probability of going to the games. And I mean, he scored 4 goals in his first game this year, and I feel like people were screaming top 3 pick, and then the back injury that was misdiagnosed. Actually, he had participated in both the bench press and the pull-ups during the combine, which was a surprise to everybody. He's been pain-free for 30 days, and then the combine from now and today. So probably around 40, 45 days. So obviously if he's still pain free, but the back injury was misdiagnosed. That's why it took a little longer for him to come back. I think I am going to go Roger McQueen, but I could totally see the case where Brady Martin gets picked up here. The Brady Martin mania, basically, is what I'll call it right now. Basically started a month and a half ago. A month ago, he was somewhere in the range of 10 to 14. I believe
Mhm.
this is my prediction, even though the prediction will never know. But if this was the NFL draft where you have 3 months until the playoffs and then the draft, Brady Martin probably wouldn't go as high as you would. But since it's the NHL where you just watch 2 full months of players playing the role that Brady Martin needs to play, and basically just what kind of like works and succeeds in the NHL and the playoffs, that's why Brady Martin is also on the rise, because NHL coaches, fan bases, GMs, and scouts, they always realize, oh, we need this kind of guy. And Brady Martin is that. But McQueen just has top 5 upside in the entire class. So if he hits. So I'm going to go McQueen here, but it's also, I know Martin is slipping, but this is where Martin always was going in my drafts. And I still haven't even picked a player for the Kraken that I always put there. But Martin is going to go higher than this. It's just what I would do. Yeah.
What I'm learning really quickly though is that this draft back in November, December felt like it was not very top heavy.
Right. Yeah.
A lot of people saying not very deep, but what I'm seeing is, maybe you don't have those franchise changers, but you still have franchise level players at the top here and probably interspersed in the top 10 like we normally see. But man, is this top 10 very solid.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
solid with a lot of, dare I say, premium positions and lots of optionality for the teams that are selecting in the
coming.
top 10. Yeah, I had to go there.
Well,
Um,
the one thing I will say
yeah.
is for the last 3 months, I've been getting into fights with people online because I don't really fight with anybody. But the only thing is, it was just people were calling this class like not strong, not deep. There's drop offs everywhere. There's not really good players. And I was like, that is the farthest thing from the truth. You are going to see during June when we get to all these players, and then there's going to be high risers. But this class is deep. If Michael Misa just would have had an exceptional season the year beforehand, they would have called him generational just as much.
Yeah.
He might have had not a Celebrini or Bedard or Gavin McKenna-esque season, but we're in a time where there's literally Bedard, Celebrini, and then basically space in the eyes of a lot of people. And then you have McKenna and Landa DuPont. It is unfair for players like Schaefer and Misa because those are all, and I know it gets thrown around, all 4 of them have real chances of being generational at their potential draft slot. I mean, Connor Bedard, Gavin McKenna, and Landa DuPont are generational. And Celebrini, with the talent and the way that he has a 4th line mentality out there, he is looking like a absolute superstar. And people are comparing him and Connor Bedard, and everyone I've talked to, except Porter Martone, has said Macklin Celebrini is the best player under 23 in the NHL. So if Connor Bedard was being named generational, I think Celebrini also has a chance to also be generational. So out of the last 5 years, we might have generational talents. And I know Landa DuPont's 15, but just look at his stats and look at what he's doing against grown men, a lot older than him and more developed, but he's absolutely cooking. And Gavin McKenna is putting up numbers we haven't seen. So I want to pump the brakes on everybody saying that this class is not deep, because there might be a drop off at 25, 26, 27, but there's always a drop off there. We haven't even talked about Victor Eklund, who I think is going to be an absolute star, or like Lyndon Lakovich, who has star upside. I mean, there's so many players in this class that just are potential superstars, but we just don't have that one name. And also, Schaefer only played 17 games, but he scored 22 points. If he would have played more, this whole draft might have had more hype, in my opinion.
Yep.
Love that. All right. I think just for time's sake, we're going to just do a top 10. So there's 3 more teams left. So you're up again with the Seattle Kraken, who have, honestly, in my mind, one of the most puzzling prospect pools. I have kind of loved some of their just giant swings they've taken in later rounds. But man, when you had just some of these defensive prospects fall to you and you take Caton, it just feels like you're doubling down on a lot of what you already have as far as lots of skill, toolsy guys that you may have gotten in those later rounds in previous draft years. Not many defensive prospects. So, Don, what do you do here?
So the reason I would always put Merca here, but the thing is, because I think they need a right-handed defenseman, I will say Frondell to stop the fall because there's no way Frondell is even here.
Right.
What
That's what I was
probably
thinking.
happens with this entire board is Frondell probably goes 3 to the Blackhawks and Martone probably goes here to 8 to the Kraken. I think that's kind of how it will end up being. But since it's what I would do, and also I had to throw in O'Brien and McQueen there just because of what I'm hearing. But Frondell would be perfect fit for the Seattle Kraken. I know that he's a versatile winger and forward or center. You can put him wherever you want. Obviously, he has an incredible shot. Maybe I think Carbonneau has the best shot in the class, and then he's number 2. Great vision. His transition game is going to get better when he comes to the American hockey or the rink size in America, because in the SHL, it was tough for him, but his game is going to translate a lot better. So it's going to be Frondell for the Kraken.
Cool.
Wow.
Yeah, I think it's really hard for them to pass that up too. But the shoot first mentality of him at least fits in with what they're building. Of course, Wright has a fantastic shot as well, but now you got somebody that could potentially be playing with Beniers. Go ahead, Trent.
I've got Jake O'Brien as the highest rated player on my list, but I don't think they're taking him. They have taken Shane Wright, Matty Beniers, Berkeley Catton. They're probably not going to take Jake O'Brien, even though he is the highest rated player on my list. The next highest rated player is Porter Martone on my list, who hasn't gone yet. And I have Ratty Murka way down on my list. He's the player that is the best fit, but for me, if I'm drafting for Seattle, I can't justify putting Murka over Martone. So I'm going to go ahead and select Martone here. They need some wingers to go with those centers. Anyhow, they have quite a few in the pipeline. They definitely need to address D, but with the way the board's shaken out, now's not the time to do it.
Yep. Kenny, how about you?
I'm going Merca here. I think that is just a shoe-in pick for them. They need the top right-handed defenseman in the draft, and Merca is going to be a fun player to watch when you see what he can do in the NHL.
Yeah, I'm struggling here. I love the fit for Merca, but I have Martone still available as well, and I guess at this point, Seattle says, well, you can get great defensemen in the later rounds. We're going to keep on hopefully hitting on something over a little bit later in the draft. And they can't pass up Martone. So I'm going to put Martone in here. I think there is a good fit for just what he can bring to this team, a team that probably needs a little bit more skill, he can bring a lot of different types of offensive skill sets, in which I think that variety could help guys like Wright and Beniers maybe develop a little bit more offensively. So, all right, Buffalo Sabres, who, gosh,
yeah, these
keeps
guys
on spinning.
Might as well just hand the pick to Utah so we can pick Brady Martin here.
Yeah, with the way this has happened, with the uncertainty, I think they are going to take a swing here. And I have McQueen still on the board. I think they'll go McQueen. Hope he pans out. If he does, maybe that opens the ability to maybe move someone like Tage later. I guess with moving Cousins, it just feels like now their center depth. I mean, I know they have the Hellenius, and he's been shaping up, but I think you just run up and grab the guy who potentially could be a top 3 player in this draft, who fell all the way to you here, and maybe that kind of helps guide your next couple moves after that. All right, Kenny.
If I'm Kevin Adams, I'm counting my days. So I think what I'd do in this instance is, in order to not piss off my fan base and make a pick that's like any sort of a gamble, I'm going with the sexy pick, and I'm picking Victor Eklund here. I think I think that they need somebody that they know is going to put up some supreme offensive numbers and really get a disgruntled fan base back on their feet. So Victor Eklund.
I really like that pick too. I mean, that could be somebody that makes the team sooner rather than later as well, and
Right.
brings a little bit of a spark plug there. All right,
Yep.
Trent.
Yeah, I think Merca would be a really good fit here. They need some help on the right side of D. But once again, I have Jake O'Brien really high on my list. I've got him 6th overall. So I'm not passing on O'Brien here.
Yeah.
I just want to touch on. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say similar reasons for taking McQueen there too. I mean, if you have some uncertainty at center now, or what the future is going to hold, shoring up the middle is always a good place to start.
Yeah. I wanted to touch on Brad, his McQueen pick, because you said like if McQueen hits, they can trade Tage Thompson. I think if the Sabres hit on McQueen, they can also trade McQueen, basically kind of what they do with something similar that they've been doing.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Or
Oh my God,
if he doesn't hit, they'll trade him, and then he'll hit later. Yeah, he'll hit later for the next
Send him
guy.
to Florida.
Oh, beautiful. That was amazing.
Eklund, I really like this pick. The thing is, Merca is still on the board, and I know that they want a right-handed defenseman, but I'm really high on Eklund. And if it's what I would do, mock, I mean, I would pick Eklund here because, like I said, he was 161 pounds majority of the season. He actually gained 9 pounds of muscle after the season, and he was playing majority against, in that second tier league in Sweden, but that was also against men. When he came up to the SHL, this man was driving play for Frondel. He is not afraid to go to the center of the ice and the middle of the ice. He is going to get into the front of the net, get his air, if he isn't driving to the net, which he usually is, he's going to go to the net and he's going to find the pucks near the goal. And I feel that this is kind of the guy that the Sabres need. It's not that he's a small player. He's 5'11", but he plays big. It's kind of the opposite of a Lyndon Lakovich. Like they're basically like, if Victor Eklund was 6'4", this guy would be the number one pick just based on how he plays. So I really like Victor Eklund's game here.
Yep. I just need to say that I'm a little bit disgusted with both Prospect Don as well as Kenny here, because you guys, do you realize what you've done? Do you realize what you've done to me? The Anaheim Ducks are going to stroll up and take Brady Martin then. I mean, come on. You guys left Brady Martin for the Ducks of all teams.
No.
Sorry, Prospect On. We are former Coyotes fans and therefore hate the Ducks with a burning passion. And the concept of adding Brady Martin to that mix is just too much for me to handle. So
I think they're going to go D. I don't know why. Everybody's mocking them with.
They've got a million.
I know, but
they
also have a million forwards.
That's true.
They also have a million forwards. So watch them be the surprise pick and pick Ravensburger or something. That would be crazy. but no, let them pick who they're going for, and then Pittsburgh. They're going to trade out to Utah. They're going to take more future picks in the upcoming years, and then we grab Martin.
Yeah, I think the thing about the Ducks here is they do need defensemen. And obviously, I think the Penguins would trade up if Martin was still on the board here. So maybe it was like a one-pick trade up just so that some other team couldn't be able to trade up for him. But the Ducks probably will look at Merca over a player like Martin just based on what they need. I'm gonna say Merca here. His player comp was Mort Seider, 6'6" and a quarter, true 6'6" and a quarter with a as a right shot defenseman, I feel like he has a lot of upside. You saw his one play where he dangled through multiple defenders against that USA exhibition game, and you can really see that when he's not thinking about play, he is really offensively skilled. He has a lot to work on, and he's also very raw. But if this guy hits, he's going to be able to quarterback your power play too, in my opinion. I think that he can do a lot of great things with his vision. His skating needs work, but he said to me that he's going to be improving that. I really like Rudy Merca's game, and I think that Seattle could keep him in Seattle, but there's just so many great players now that Martin is also in the top 10 here. Like if we look at all of your guys' mock drafts, it's really interesting to see if either Martone, O'Brien, or even mine with Frondell falling. Like every single draft, there's somebody that should not be falling that is falling in this class. So there's going to be a bunch of activity in the top 10, in my opinion. Frank Saravalli, I'll give this one more note. Like Frank Saravalli said that there might be 2 top 5 picks moving before the draft happens. Like this is one of those classes that I think it's going to be the exact opposite of 2023, where there was 0 trades in the first round. I think there's going to be a absolute like a gigantic amount, like a mammoth amount of picks being traded.
I love it. Can't wait to hear that.
You guys want to
over and over?
Yeah. You guys want to lightning round through the rest of these real fast?
Yeah, let's do it. We had them on the board. We had them on the board. So
yeah. So without justifying it too much, the next player that would hurt my heart more than anyone but Martin to go to the Ducks would be Kashan Aitchison. So I think they'll pick Aitchison here just because he's such a pain in the ass to play against, and it would hurt my heart to see him there. So I'm going to go with Aitchison here at 11.
Cool. Ditto. I think Aitchison is a freaking maniac, and I think if the Ducks are building something around I don't want to say a lot of softer forwards because they still have McTavish there. Aitchison on the back end would be a phenomenal building piece there. So Aitchison all day for the Ducks.
The heir apparent to Rako Skudis.
And Trouba. And
yeah. I am going to zag though, and I'm going to go with Don here too, and I'm going to go Merca specifically because of handness. You have 2 young defensemen in Lacombe and Zellweger on the left side, so go for the big righty. Now with Pittsburgh though, I think, gosh, they're in a weird spot. I'm going for pure upside here, and I think they take a swing at Bear. At least that's what I would do. You may be tearing it down for McKenna next year. Why not? Right?
Yeah.
Who do you got, Kenny?
I think this is where Martin goes to whoever team is there. Martin has fallen down my board quite a bit, so hopefully
I'm missing. Oh, Eklund. You know what? I take that back. I have to. I'm sorry. It's got to be Eklund.
How dare you? I was
you just forfeited your pick.
And
can you imagine handing Bear a jersey and then like, no, actually, you need to take that off.
Oh wait, it'd be like that. And the Oscars the other years ago, they announced La La Land and it was Moon.
Yeah.
I'm going to go Eklund here as well, but I think Bear was a good pick. I've got him very highly rated. I've got him 1 spot behind Eklund, just 1. Love Carter Bear, love him. So I'm going Eklund here too.
It's going to be Brady Martin, the Sioux connection with
there you go.
with Kyle Dubas over there, who said hi to me. I don't think he knew who I was at the combine, but he gave me a head nod. And Merca didn't know who he was either. So I knew who he was, but I didn't say hi to him. But Merca didn't know who he was, so that was an awesome tidbit. But yeah, Martin's going to go to the Penguins if they have a chance to get him.
Oh yeah, Dubas wouldn't even wait to get into the aisle. He'll be just climbing over people. Oh, I guess.
No, he's running to his phone.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
He's got 2 phones.
All right, now
his glasses would get steamed up. Yeah.
And then this situation, we're assuming Rangers keep this pick.
Yes. Yeah.
I'll go Kashan Aitchison. Worse skater than Martone, actually. Stephen Ellis said that, and I know you guys had him on this week or last week as well, so that was awesome. But Aitchison, 26 goals in the O this year, really physical, brings the body. I think that this is going to be the pick.
Yep, that feels like a really good fit too. Trent?
I'm going to go with Jackson Smith here. His mom will be buying rounds for people in Manhattan. I think with Keandre Miller potentially on the way out or rumored to be, they need another really tall left shot defenseman who can skate like the wind and has a ton of great mobility, and that's Jackson Smith.
Yep.
That's
Kenny?
my pick. That's my pick too. I thought about McQueen here, but I don't think that you pass up on a mobile LD for New York, and he's fallen pretty far already.
I'm in the same boat here too. So
yeah,
And I think
with
Jackson Smith is a lot better than Aitchison. I just want to say that, but it's just the fit.
really.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, I mean you can't really go wrong with either. But yeah, Aitchison would bring a lot of snarl.
I got one quick question to wrap this up. Who's the player you like the best who didn't make it into your top 12, Don?
Ooh,
Who's the one guy
Yeah,
you're
it's-
missing?
Carter Bear.
Yeah.
Obviously, the
Same.
lacerated Achilles, he dodged a bullet. He should not be even walking. He was walking perfectly fine. He's skating. He's going to be participating in off-season activities. His player comp was Brandon Hagel. His like hard skill and tenacity on the puck is incredible. He 2 years ago, he didn't think he was going to be in this opportunity. So I love Carter Bear and his humbleness too.
Yeah, he was the guy I had circled in red 3 times before we won the lottery. Was Carter Bear. That was the guy I wanted at 14 for Utah if we picked there. Since you chose him, I'll say the last guy on my list that hasn't been picked other than Bear is Justin Carbonneau. Bit of a boomer bust. Love to watch the way he plays. Amazingly entertaining. Such a fun pick. Carbonneau would be my guy left on the board. That my last remaining guy. What about you, Kenny?
Yeah, you stole mine. So I'm gonna go McQueen. I love McQueen a lot. The guy's a freaking unit of a man. So I'm excited to see what he can do in the NHL. But Carbonneau, I'm a sucker for offense, man, and he's an exciting player. That shot is crazy.
Well, you already know mine because I almost put him in, and then I had to remove
drafted
the
him and then
pick, so
undrafted
Bear would be
Fair. Yeah.
Give me that jersey back.
One more player I want to give a shout out to is Cullen Harry Potter. That's my name for him. And he's a wizard out
Nice.
there.
Yeah.
I think, his speed is absolutely incredible. He's the best skater in the entire draft, as well as Ben Kindle. Great player, under 6 feet, but he has some skating issues. But he's one of the most clutch players I've ever seen. I think he scored like 5 or 6 overtime goals in the playoffs or getting into it. So yeah, absolutely incredible stuff by both of those guys.
Hey, we're all 3 in Arizona, and Brad, you and your dad split Sun Devils tickets, right? Season tickets. So you guys have seen Colin Potter plenty. Yeah.
Yep. It's gonna be exciting to keep on seeing him grow a little bit, and see how the team kind of works around him these coming years. I think that's a player that I feel when he gets even a little bit more confidence is really going to pop too. And obviously being a lot younger in that first year in NCAA, I think it's just around the corner. But Prospect Don, thank you so much. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say Ben Keevan's joining him too, and hopefully they'll get one of these big CHL recruits too. I mean, how have they not yet, for crying out loud? Like, you could go to Arizona or North Dakota, Cole Rezhny. What are you doing, man? Come to Arizona, CHL guys, please. Justin Carbonneau, it's not too late to change your mind. Heck, Caleb Desnoyers, come on down, buddy. Anyway,
last tidbit before I go off, because is Carbonneau probably goes to Boston College and is going to be the Ryan Leonard role with James Haggins, and I feel like that would be a fantastic fit.
Crazy.
Love it.
Watch him go to Penn State with McKenna.
McKenna,
yeah. All right. Well, thanks again, Prospect Don. Make sure you're following him on all the socials at the Prospect Don. This was a lot of fun. We'll have to catch up with you again, and maybe next year this can be our annual tradition to do a mock draft with you.
Yeah, for sure, man. If you guys want to do something after the draft too to re-talk, I'll definitely be down. I'm always online, but yeah.
That's a great idea. We should revisit our board after. I think that'd be
fun.
Grade our board. So we'll have to take a screenshot of that. Thank you, the prospect Don, the Don father. We appreciate you, man.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it.
All right. Have a
Thanks.
good one. Bye.
We know we running it now.